What's up, guys? We're back another week. We made it another week sober. If you're just finding this channel, welcome. Maybe you've been through addiction. Maybe you have a family member that has, maybe a friend, maybe someone in your life that you don't really know what to do. And you went on YouTube and you're looking to just get some understanding, or just maybe you're in recovery yourself and you're just looking for a little bit of hope, a little bit of experience, a little bit of mental boost for your mental health. Whatever brings you here, welcome. We make a bunch of videos about addiction, recovery, sobriety, just conquering that stuff, putting it to the side and saying, you know what, we want a better life. It's rough out there, and I hope everyone is doing well. I just want to say we got another good episode on today. We got Robert, we got Whitney, the Ask It Basket. We answer questions. I have questions from you guys, straight from you guys, whether it's comments or emails. Whitney gets stuff from work. She works in treatment. And Robert, he speaks all over the place. He does a ton of stuff in recovery. He's got almost 40 years. I have over 5 years. Whitney's got over a year. We feel like it's the perfect combination to just answer questions. We're all in kind of different stages in our recovery, but on the same path, and that's what matters. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode. I just want to say, if you're someone who has reached out to me via email and I haven't responded yet, I will. My anatomy class is kicking my ass right now, but you know what? I take it a day at a time, just like I take my recovery. So let's get into the episode, guys. Hello. Oh, no, you're good, Robert. We are back, guys. We're back. We got Robert. We got Whitney. We got the Ask It Basket. Bunch of questions from rehab. Sometimes Whitney pulls questions from work. She works in treatment. Sometimes Robert pulls it from meetings he's at or places where he goes to speak. And then sometimes I will pull questions or comments from you guys, those listening, people that have watched episodes and have questions. And I've got a lot of cool comments lately, just transparent stuff. And you know what? It's crazy is I could relate to all of them. There's a piece of everyone's message and experience that I can relate to. So I'm excited to have you guys on again. I'll start with you, Robert. What's going on? What's new with you? How's Florida treating you still?
Oh, Florida is fantastic. I love every minute. I'm getting acclimated to meetings here. I've got a couple new sponsees, and things are going quite nicely. You know, whether you're brand new sober or been around a long time, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous says God will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. And throughout my recovery journey, I've always craved fellowship. I've always wanted to be. It's why Whitney and I become such good friends. It's why you and I connected right away, because God knows that I need you to complete me. And so I'm so excited to be a part of a group and be a part of a fellowship, because the fellowship is only is not recovery, but recovery couldn't exist without the fellowship. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up too, because there for a lot of years I just tried the fellowship and I didn't I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being around my people. I enjoyed being around people that understood kind of what it was like to drink like I did. But things really changed when I got involved in the recovery part, and that's when I really started to my outlook on life, like the book talks about, started to finally shift. I want to ask you, Whitney, how are you doing? What's new with you?
I'm doing so good. What's new? Just still working both jobs right now, so I'm super busy. The summers keep me super busy, but I'm getting a few more hours at the treatment center, so that's nice. Um, Other than that, I'm just sponsoring women and hitting a couple meetings a week, more when I can, and loving life down here, guys. Can't complain.
Yeah, and I love hearing you guys check-ins, because it's always such good stuff going on. I know Robert's always excited in Florida, and you always have a bunch going on. You're always busy, Whitney. I'm the same way. I signed up for an anatomy class, and it's been killing me. Oh my gosh, it's 10 hours a week. It's quizzes every week, studying for hours every day. So I've been learning kind of what we talked a little bit about on the last episode, was just that balance, just
Yeah.
figuring out, okay, how am I going to put hours each day into studying? How am I going to get the podcast stuff done? How am I going to work? How am I going to get my recovery stuff in? So it's been a challenge, but it's been good. It's been growth. I feel like kind of figuring out like, okay, how do I balance this? How do I balance that? And how do I stay somewhat sane in sobriety? I think is like what what it what it comes
When
down
you
to.
figure that one out, let us know so we can take your cue.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured that one out yet. I'm working on it. It's one of those ideals I'm working towards, the ideals that we talk about,
You
Robert,
know,
I'm
you
gonna
you,
go
you
ahead.
mentioned something really quick, and I just want to touch on it. Um, my joy has increased the longer I've been sober. In the beginning, as we all remember, we didn't drink because we couldn't. Somewhere along the line, we don't drink because we begin to enjoy the life that sobriety has given us, and we enter into recovery. And today, even though I know the statistical, I know the medical aspects, I know that I can never safely drink for physiological reasons. That's not why I don't drink. I don't drink because I just love this life, and and I would no more drink than I would go and shoot myself and end my life that way, because I enjoy life so much that I wouldn't drink just because of the things that come to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying, and like I'm not sober now just because I feel like I have to be anymore. It's somewhere along the line I started to really enjoy that, and I think there's a lot of people because I get questions all the time where people are like, you're over 5 years sober. Like, why are you still going to meetings and stuff? And why are you still talking about like recovery all the time? And haven't you moved on and stuff? And I'm like, guys, you don't get it. It's I enjoy every minute of it, and I enjoy the service work, and it's so fulfilling, and it's like, I'm just constantly trying to fill my cup like we've talked about many times, on here. I kinda wanna ask you, Whitney, did you notice that that's a great point, Robert, too, by the way. Did you notice when you kinda transitioned from just doing stuff in recovery because you felt like you had to now enjoying it?
Oh my God, yes. Now I enjoy it so much that I can't imagine my life without it. I can't imagine the life without the community and the fellowship and going to meetings and just knowing that there's going to be a grip load of people showing up at these meetings every day. But to answer your question, when I first, went to rehab, did the whole thing, got out, went to sober living, started working my steps. I was lucky to have a sponsor and people around me that, you know, promised me that if I kept showing up and I kept doing the things and I worked my steps that it would be that way. And I believed them, and so I continued to do that. And it didn't take very long until I was kind of craving it. I can't live without it probably from 6 months on. And it just continues to get better and better. Getting into the service aspect of it has been my favorite part, and, sponsoring women or sharing meetings or, there's just such a payback with that, there's such a fulfillment with that, and that's why I kind of like to focus on that lately, but
You
yeah.
know, along with what Whitney said and things that you have said also, Drew, we're happy because we're active.
Mhm.
When we were out in the trap house or in the bar or wherever we were making our feel good, we were trapped in there. Um, we have, according to the promises, the new sense of freedom. And so we're free to come, we're free to go, we're free to serve, we're free to be served. But the main ingredient in all of our recovery, and many of your listeners out there, the main ingredient is action. And as Whitney was talking, she's active, she's doing things, she's always moving, she's always looking for something to be someone to help as she is to be helped. And that's the common denominator between us all and all who enter recovery. So Whitney is not happy, joyous, and free by accident. She's happy, joyous, and free because she's pursuing happiness, joyousness, and freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another great point. It's like, she didn't just stumble across it. It wasn't she didn't, like, trip and fall, and she was like, "Oh, I feel so free nowadays," and,
Yeah.
it
Uh,
takes a it takes a lot of work, and when you're talking about getting active, Robert, it kinda reminds me of for so many years, I was so inactive, and I had been inactive for so long that it just it was kind of like not going to the gym for, like, 5 years and then trying to, like, sign up for a, like, personal trainer and go to this gym and trying to work out, like, 5 days a week. It was just so hard for me to get started because for so long I was inactive, but it's crazy, and then kinda to Whitney's point where the sponsor's telling her, "Hey, look, you're gonna feel better eventually. You're gonna feel better. I promise you. You're gonna feel better than you think you're going to feel right now." And then all of a sudden it happens, and it's like, man, I'm so glad I trusted this process. If that kind
yeah,
of makes sense, you know?
It really does, Drew. And you bring up something very. I picked up a guy who's today on the way to a meeting. I picked up a guy, young man who's 95 days sober. Incredible accomplishment. And he just celebrated his 37th birthday, and he hadn't been sober on his birthday in 18 years. So you do the math. He's been sober 95 days, but he hadn't been sober on his birthday for 18, 19 years, which is a miracle in and of itself. And that was one of the questions he asked me. He said, "When does it get easier?" I said, "The hard part is over, man.
yeah,
The hard part is over. You've demonstrated to yourself that you don't need to pick up. You don't need to use. You don't have that physical craving that can linger when we're first getting sober. Now the easy work has begun. Step 4 is easy. We complicate the heck out of it, but it's designed to be easy. Um, and steps 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, they're easy steps, providing we have good counsel, we have good sponsorship, we're communicating with people along the way. But the hardest part is getting sober. Staying sober is a lot easier. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it sure is a lot easier than it was when I was in detox and initially in recovery.
Oh yeah. I look back and I look back at what I have to do to kind of maintain sobriety today. And then I look back at what it took when I was sitting in
Yeah.
detox and the way
yeah.
I felt. And oh man, it felt so impossible. And until I finally realized through getting involved in recovery that it wasn't. But was it the same thing for you, Whitney? What was it like sitting in like a detox setting and trying to understand how you're gonna stay sober?
Oh God, it was so awful. Every time I think about it, I just cringe. But and it's not the only time. Like I've said on here before, I've tried to get sober multiple times, right? And the difference this time, I was just so desperate. I had that gift of desperation this last time, and I was willing to try anything. And I kind of like, I don't know, wasn't really curious about AA until I went to a treatment center that exposed me to it. And thank God for that, because yeah, I mean, that was the one thing I did different this time around, and it's working, right? So I'm just so grateful for my treatment center actually exposing me to it, because I don't think I would have been curious enough to go find it myself. So
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I was the same way. I found it in treatment. I don't know that I would have. I mean, I hope that maybe down the road I would have searched for it, but I
mhm.
don't know. Robert. I'm gonna read you this. This is a comment from guy named Randy on YouTube. It was sent 3 days ago. He says, "I am 3 months and 13 days clean off of meth. The thing that you said that's sticking with me the most is when you said, just know that it will get better."
You know, I tell you, once again, that's where fellowship, that's where good sponsorship really comes to the rescue. I mean, literally comes to the rescue. It's like we're drowning in a sea of despair, and the attraction, because everything is so physical to us, where if we can't see it, touch it, smell it, taste it, we don't believe it's true. And yet we see things happening in other people, and we want what they have, not what we had. And so breaking that separation, it does get easier. Just hang in there. Tell your sponsor, go to a meeting and talk to someone before, after the meeting, said, I'm scared that I'm going to go use. What did you do to overcome those challenges? What did you do to overcome the draw, the attraction that drugs or alcohol still have on me? Because especially, if we're drinking a lot, the attraction is usually the bar. It's a physical transaction, attraction. If we're doing drugs, the sensation of snorting something, the sensation of shooting something, it becomes more of a physical attraction as well as a body type change traction, where I know my body is going to change once the drug enters me into my brain, into my bloodstream. But there's a tremendous attraction to breaking something down, to chopping something up. It's almost a religion. And then preparing the snorter and snorting, or getting the pipe ready and ready to hit that. I mean, there's all sorts of rituals we go through in order to drink, or especially to use. So get around people, go to NA, find some people that can identify with you in your fear, and you can identify with them where they're at, and share that honesty. Because at the end of the day, bro, we're only as sick as our secrets. And if I go to Whitney and I say, Whitney, I'm afraid I'm going to use, help me. What did you do when you were afraid? And Whitney will say, this is what I did, Robert. This is what I read. This is how I prayed. This is meetings I went to. By the way, do you have a sponsor? All of those things that they ask us, Drew, along the way, that help us get through another day. That's the amazing thing. We only have to get a day. Today, I have 14,389 days. Now, I have a lot more days than you or Whitney, but we all have a day. And whether you're 30 days, 3,000 days, it doesn't really matter. All we have is today, because we're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And sometimes the spirituality comes through another person.
Yeah, and yeah, I totally agree with that. Thank you for commenting on that. I'll go to you, Whitney, for this one. It says, Percocets are my vice. I can't wait to get some tomorrow. I can't sleep because I'm counting the literal minutes until I can go get them. Can you relate to that? Because when I read this, I look back, and when I read this, I was like, oh man, it brought me back. Like, I had like actual vivid like
Yeah.
flashbacks of
Um,
sitting there. I used to wait. I used to get paid on like a Friday night. This is when I had a job in addiction. Most of the time I didn't, but there was times where I actually had a job, and it would be like direct deposit, and I'd be up. I couldn't sleep that night, and I'm like waiting for it to hit. And I knew it used to hit at like 3:45 in the morning.
yeah.
So this comment, I can't sleep because I'm counting the literal minutes until I can go get them. Can you relate to that, Whitney?
Oh, absolutely. I did it all. I had all the drugs in and out of my life, right? But it became such a full-time job. I mean, everything I did from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to bed, right? Or maybe didn't go to bed. I was chasing, hunting, plotting, scheming, like whatever it was to get my next fix. And it did become a full-time job. And so I completely relate to that, like, you know, every move you make is in concession to going and getting more, right? So bless his heart. I've been there, and God, I had to go straight to treatment at that point. Somebody had to physically stop me and put me somewhere where I had no control over my life anymore.
Yeah, once I got to that point, there's just no way. I mean, I'd tell myself, look, I'd make all these plans in my head, like, okay, like this is the last week or this is the last month, and there's no way. But see, the thing was, I look back on it now, and like I didn't have the power to stop. I thought I did for a long time, but I didn't. Robert, I'm going to jump into this one. It's kind of long. I'll cut down some of it. It says, I overdosed, went paralyzed for a couple days. A cop saved my life. He even had the people reach out to me for getting help, etc. After that, I went and got the help and got clean. I'm 3 years clean today. I never looked back. I cut everyone off. I never once relapsed or anything. I did drugs to numb the pain, the trauma, the abuse, but that one bad experience woke me up. I learned once I got sober around 27 years old, it was okay to cry, to show emotion, to show your feelings, and to talk about it.
Is that a question or a comment?
Just
I
a
mean, it's a
comment.
wonderful comment.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a comment. I love that they said though, like towards the end, it's okay to show emotion, to talk about things and to reach out for help. And that's kind of what we're always saying on this show all the time is like get connected, get involved, like find people that you can talk to. How important was it for you, Robert, to find people that you could confide in, talk to, have support with?
You know, that's a great question, and congratulations on 3 years today. That is quite the accomplishment. Um, uh, the reason I went back out at 71 days because I couldn't show you how afraid I was. I couldn't get honest with you because I know you said keep coming back, but it was only because in my mind you didn't know me. You didn't know how afraid I was. You didn't know that I was obsessed with me and hiding how I felt. And it was only until I was probably 3 or 4 months sober, my time back in, that I began getting honest because I knew that if I didn't get honest, if I didn't share my feelings, if I didn't cry, I would never get well. Because I've said it before, I'll say it again, we're only as sick as our secrets. And until I show you or tell you how afraid I really am, and I used to think sharing my feelings and my emotions was a weakness. It's actually a strength. It's when I confide, when I share my heart with you, I'm showing you that I want to connect to you. And I remember one significant moment. I was about 3 or 4 months sober, and I went to my sponsor and I tried to tell Jack how I was feeling. And guys, for 45 minutes, all I could do was stutter and cry. For the first time sober, I cried like a baby. And Jack just let me cry. I had so much hurt, so much pain that I didn't want to face. And all I could do was cry. But I felt safe with Jack, and he let me cry. And when I was done, he talked to me and he gave me a solution over the things I was afraid of. Because usually, if we're sober, we're afraid of something that's not real. In More About Alcoholism, Bill talks about an illusion and a delusion. What we feel will happen to us if we express our emotion is not real. It is a delusion. It's not going to happen, because the more transparent I am, the more I can help you, the more I can help the newcomer, and more the old timer can help me come along and say, when I was afraid like you, this is what I did. And it's almost like giving the newcomer permission to feel themselves. And if we're not feeling, we'll never admit we're powerless over alcohol or drugs. We'll never admit that our life had become unmanageable, which is a surrender step to our sobriety.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
At our treatment center, we like to say addiction is the opposite of connection. And just being in that treatment center and like being in these groups that are so like processing groups that are so important to somebody processing, right? Um, that when anytime they get vulnerable, it like breeds connection throughout the
Yeah.
whole room. And by the end of the group, like you would think it'd just be amazing to see how much more cohesive everybody is. Just because one person spoke up and got vulnerable, then it like set the tone for everybody in the room to kind of, oh, maybe I'm not being so honest with myself, or maybe I'm not being honest with you. And it's a beautiful thing. I think vulnerability is so important when we're trying to connect with these people in the rooms. So just like you said, Robert.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's almost like giving people permission. And when one person shares that, it opens the door for other people saying, gee, they shared this, they shared that. I'm glad I'm not them, because we'd hear some stories in the rooms and we think, man, this person is really sick. I'm glad I'm not as bad off as they are. And we laugh within ourselves because it almost says, wow, if they shared that and they're okay, but I can share this. And a lot of times we share it in piecemeal. We share it almost incrementally. We give them a little bit of this, we give them a little bit of that, and eventually we give them the whole story.
Yeah. We give them the tester at first to kind of
Yeah,
see the
there we go.
reaction.
Yeah.
But it is
Just
it is essential, like Whitney says.
Yeah. No, and I've kind of had the same experience in rehab. It's kind of amazing what happens when one person's opens
Yeah.
up, and it's like, especially when like you have kind of a newer group in the rehab and not everyone quite knows each other yet, and all of a sudden you go into that group because you can have a group at rehab where no one opens up at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
then you can have another group where it kind of starts out slow and then you walk out of there going, man, like there was some serious growth that just happened in that last hour or whatever. So I'm really glad that, yeah, thank you both of you guys for both commenting on that and bringing that up because, I'll just add to that as well. The vulnerability that was, I had to avoid that when I was in addiction, because if I sat still long enough to really get a taste of reality and what I was doing and kind of the decisions I was making, oh, I'd feel terrible. So I just
Mhm.
continued to drink and use to avoid that. And it makes sense
Yeah.
that once I get sober and we're trying to get free, it makes sense that I have to open up about that stuff. I gotta let it go. Like Robert said earlier, the secret's keeping you sick. It's like I had to let a lot of that out to finally feel better.
You know,
Mhm.
just to add to that, because this is such a fantastic topic. Um, I always wanted to be somebody else, somewhere else, doing something else. I didn't want to be me in the moment because I really thought, and I said this today, I thought if you and Whitney knew everything about me, I, I, I legitimately thought you wouldn't like me. And and recovery, the rooms of AA and NA and OA and GA and all the other A's I went to, they were the last house on the block for me. I knew there was nowhere else because everyone else was gone. Everyone else had left or told me not to come back. And so the only place I was welcome were the rooms of recovery. And it was only until gave you a little and you said, you're okay, keep coming back, keep coming back. You're okay. And I shared a little bit more and you said, keep coming back. And then I couldn't wait to tell you everything because you
Yeah, it's
said,
like
keep coming back.
once we finally open up and I think we just see like, oh, people they're not gonna just shame me or
Yeah.
they're not gonna dislike me. It's a lot of the stuff that I thought in my head was gonna happen. It was just in my head. And then and we see kind of I guess the therapeutic value in it, and then I feel like that's what gets us going. Like once we open up
Totally.
once we get vulnerable once we understand it's okay, once we understand we're around people that we can talk about this stuff with, it's like I feel like we just get motivated to continue it. I
You
want to
know,
ask, or go ahead,
real quick,
Robert.
so there's always something else to add. In the
I
big
know,
book
me
of
too.
in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says outsiders are often amazed when we burst into merriment over a seemingly tragic situation. But
Mhm.
why shouldn't we laugh? For we have recovered. So when I remember the first time I shared something dark and tragic, and the whole room just lit up. They were rolling. And I thought, why are these people laughing at me? They weren't laughing at me. They were laughing with me because they experienced something the same way. And
Yes.
it was it's like, I can laugh about that. I need to fix it, but I can laugh. And there was gosh, guys, there was such a sense of freedom that opened the door to my freedom today. And I just want more.
Yes. Well, and like for people like me, I went into the rooms thinking like, and you hear this all the time, but oh, I'm so unique. Like I did things nobody else would ever dare do, or I did things to my, and it's so funny. like how many people have the exact same things in their stories,
Yeah.
you know? And it's just like I used to walk around in my addiction, like totally scared of everybody because I was so disconnected that like even going to the store and being exposed at the store as like the junkie, I like hated it. You know, and it's just like the difference between I can walk around with confidence now. I could go anywhere I want and you know, I'm not going to have that shameful like ambiance about me. And it's just thank goodness for these rooms and like being able to relate to people, you know? And I remember the first time somebody stood up and told their story and it was like almost my exact story. It was just like a game changer for me, you know?
Yeah, and I always tell people like stick around. Someone's gonna come in and tell your exact story almost, and it's gonna rock your world because you're gonna, and a lot of times what happens is, well, first of all, I want to comment on what you just said, Whitney, because for so many years I was the same way. I didn't even like going out in public that much
Mhm.
towards the end. Because you know what it was? I'd see people from. I was in the city where I went to middle school. I was in the city where I went to high school when I was fine when I was in my like last years of addiction. And I used to run into people and every single year I'd be running into people, right? And like their life just kept going up. Like every time I saw them, it was like, oh, like I'm doing well in school. This was when I was younger. And then it was like, oh, I'm doing great. I'm in this relationship. Oh, we're engaged. Oh, I'm getting married. Oh, I bought a house. Oh, I run my own company. And they're like, what are you
Yeah.
up to? And I'm like, oh, I just got out from somewhere. Yeah, I was always just getting out from somewhere, right?
Yes.
Detox,
Yes.
jail, whatever. And it's just not like that today. I run into people today, and I feel like sometimes they're shocked because they almost don't even recognize me sometimes. But it's such a good feeling. It's so nice that that changes, and just the confidence goes up. And I think what it is at the end of the day is just I don't have to look over my shoulder as much. I'm
Yeah.
not as it's not like I remember driving around paranoid. Everyone behind me was a cop. If there really was a cop behind me, I'd like speed up, pull off, like get out of my car, go into a store or something. And it's just so nice today not having to live like that. Robert, I'm gonna ask you one of these questions here. Says, what is the most important aspect of your recovery today?
Ah, probably of my recovery today, probably steps 10, 11, and 12. I live in them. I take step 10 because I'm never done. I don't want to be done. I'll be done when I'm dead. In the meantime, I want to stay recovered, so I stay in recovery. Make that very clear. So there's nothing. My sponsor is Slow Will, happy, grateful, recovered alcoholic. My sponsor, Slow will say, if we clear away the wreckage of our present, it doesn't become the wreckage of our past. So is as uncomfortable as admitting I'm wrong is on one hand, on the other hand, the freedom that it gives me is immeasurable because I want freedom. Who doesn't want to be free when all you have to decide to do is be free? Then when I do step 11, I I have a conscious contact with God, and it's not me, make that very clear, that puts me in a direction and a path that leads me to you, where I really get my value, and who doesn't like freedom and who doesn't like to understand their value. So I think the greatest gift of my sobriety today is the freedom that I feel and the value that I get back as you reciprocate to me sometimes, but all I have to do is try to carry the message. So I carry a message of hope, of recovery, of wellness, of sobriety. And it's a whole lot better than the message I used to carry when I used to beat somebody to death with a pool cue because I thought they knew how high I was. and I never met them before. I mean, that's who I was. Or sitting in a bar, hopeless, and I knew I was 3 days late from coming back home with milk. I mean, that's the bondage I used to live in, but today I live in freedom. So I'm free. And there's nothing, when you were trapped and you remember how trapped you really were, when you decide to become free and you get freedom, there's nothing like it. So I encourage everyone out there to strive for freedom. Not only freedom from addiction, but freedom from that insanity that says my life is not complete unless I drink or use.
Yeah, and when you were saying that, Robert, I could totally relate to just when you've been down in the dumps in addiction, when you've drank and used when you swear you're not going to,
Yeah.
when you've constantly found yourself in that kind of hopeless and it just feels helpless position. And then to find freedom, a freedom that for a lot of years, many of us felt like we'd never find. We felt like it just wasn't out there for us. And then you get a piece of it. It just makes you so eternally grateful. Just so much gratitude. Thank you for sharing that. I'll ask you, Whitney. It's kind of a tricky question. It's kind of a hard one. But what is the most important aspect of your recovery today?
I would say currently right now, and I think I say this all the time, right? But service. I like to be service oriented, and not only because it's not like an ego thing by any means. It's like I want to give somebody else, a newcomer, the relief that I got initially coming into this program. And if I can do that and get them started on this journey, it's just I feel so it makes me feel so good about myself and my life and what I'm doing. Um, and even outside of the AA program, being in this treatment center and just being a case manager, like very simple, right? I'm a case manager, but I get to sit down with these people in early recovery and kind of get to work with them personally and I kind of get to see all sorts of things that help me in my recovery, and it's a beautiful thing. So I love the service thing because I feel like I almost get more than I'm even giving, and that's the beauty of this program. And so yeah, I would say service today.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm picturing you working. I mean, they're very lucky to have you over there. Someone that has worked so hard and has such great experience to share with everyone over there. And there's nothing like being in a treatment center and getting help from people that have been through it themselves. There's just nothing like it. I can't tell you how many times staff members at rehabs helped me get through the finish line of the treatments, even complete the treatment center, just because I'd have these little breakdowns here and there. I'd be ready to leave and I talked to someone who worked there who was in recovery themselves and they'd kind of talk me off the ledge and it's what I needed many times just to get to the next day. But thank you for sharing that, Whitney. I'll go to this next question, Robert. It says oh, this is a good one, but your early sobriety was a while ago, but what mistakes did you make early on in sobriety?
Uh, every every mistake you could make that led to my relapse. Um, you know, I was very fortunate. I made newcomer mistakes. Um, I didn't pay attention to the things I ought to pay attention to. Having said that, I didn't make very many mistakes because the people that I got sober around were so unapologetically convinced that AA worked that if I wanted to be like them, if I wanted to be around them, then I had to do what they did. There was no door number three. It was either you got well and you got sober, or you went back out and died in Las Vegas. And maybe, well, definitely the men and women I got sober around kept me from me. ultimately I would go back out. And so the mistake I put off surrender long enough to go back and drink. And I'm very fortunate to have come back. So I listened a lot, but I treated recovery like you would treat a buffet. You know, in California, I remember going to smorgasbords as a youngster, or going to Sizzler, or in Utah, it's Chuckarama, you know, and I would go, I want some of this, I want some of that, I don't want. So I was very selective. I didn't want things that were difficult or seemed to be difficult, but were an access to the freedom that I had sought. And so those are the mistakes I made. I did what was comfortable, not what was necessary.
Yeah, and I'll add in kind of mine to this question as well. Mine was kind of the same thing. I kind of picked and choose what I was willing to do. I tried to I tried to get sober, but I also tried to hold on to a lot of the old
Yeah.
lifestyle. I'd go hang out. I'd get out of rehab and I'd go hang out with my friends that are drinking all the time. And it's like, I could have still been friends with them kind of from a distance, but I was in a vulnerable place just leaving
Mm.
rehab, and I'm out hanging out at bars and stuff with them all the time, staying out late. And I'd say no the first couple times, but what happened eventually is kind of that, it was like that fear of missing out, but it was also kind of that loneliness. I'd be up in my head going, "Oh man, remember that one time 12 years ago you had a great night drinking?" And I know it's been terrible since, and you just got out of rehab again. But remember, and I would just play these things over my head. And so I'd say one of the big things for me was I just didn't build the support. I didn't take it seriously enough. Kind of like Robert too. It had to do with the surrender. I
Mm.
wasn't, for a lot of years. I wasn't fully convinced that each time I drank, I was going to have problems eventually. I thought that maybe I could. I guess my goal was wrong. Instead of trying to not drink, I was trying to control the drinks, and
Yeah.
that's where I always went wrong as well. I want to ask. I want to ask you this, Whitney. When did you realize the first time that you had a problem?
Oh, you know what? When I first started, I had all these immediate consequences. Like I started smoking weed and drinking on the weekends and I got federal probation like within the same like 6 months, right? So I had all these immediate consequences and I still swore over my heart that like smoking weed wasn't bad for me and I could still do it and I could still be a responsible human being and like maybe drink here and there. Um, so for years I lived like that, right? I knew I had a problem when I started to do things that I swore I would never do. I kept like drawing that line in the sand further and further away. Um, I had legal problems the whole time, but it took me like finally putting a needle in my arm and finally trying to get sober so many times and realizing like I just can't. I'm going back out every time. Okay, yeah, I've got a serious problem. And what's sad about that is you try to do that so many times, you try and fail, you get up, try and fail, and you lose hope. And at some point, I just remember thinking, like, I just accept it. Like, I just accept that I'm a junkie. I accept that I'm a lifer. Like, this is just who I am. I remember starting to think like that. And thank God it was shortly after that that I went to this treatment center and found some AA and found some really good treatment and some really good, like a really good community of people that I could kind of let carry me until I could carry myself. So,
Yeah, and I could really relate to when you're talking about kind of just you almost kind of come to acceptance. It's like the
mhm.
acceptance before you get sober, where you kind of I almost kind of felt like, what it was for me is I was kind of tired of trying and failing. But the thing was that I didn't realize at the time is I was tired of trying and failing kind of on my own will, because I was putting a lot of effort in, but the problem was I just wasn't capable of executing the plan of getting sober myself. And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I kind of took that effort that I was putting into getting sober myself and then started putting it into the recovery program. I guess that energy was channeled into something that could really actually help me stay sober. But thank you for that. I could really relate to that. I want to,
Let me just add one thing.
yeah, go ahead.
As Whitney was sharing, somewhere along the line, Whitney and we all realized, and anyone who's recovered out there or in recovery out there, you realize that even though we did bad things because we were sick. If I'm just a bad person, there's no hope for me. But if I'm a sick person who does bad things, there is hope. There is a cure, not necessarily a cure for the addiction, but a cure for my brain, a cure that I can stop thinking destructively that would cause me to go back to drink or use. And once I make that transformation, once I realize that I'm a sick person trying to get better rather than a, a bad person, then things change. I I thought I disappointed everyone around me because I was bad. I didn't realize how sick, and I was really sick in many different ways, spiritually, mentally, physically. I got more sick and more sick and more sick. And you almost do things defensively because in our heart of hearts we think we're bad. So so if you're new or relatively new and you're listening out there, you're very sick
Mm.
and we can help you because we were once sick, we're now well.
Yeah, I love that. And it took me a while being sober to kind of look back and realize kind of just how sick I was.
Yeah.
And I just didn't realize at the time, and it's hard because after a while, I started to feel like a bad person is what essentially happened, and it was like all the wasted kind of attempts at getting sober, and all these people were trying to help me, and I couldn't do it, and you start to think you're a bad person, and you know what? That kind of reminds me. That was one of the things that I absolutely loved about walking into the rooms of recovery was it was finally people that I could relate to, and there was people that, like we kinda talked about earlier, that had done the exact same things as me, and they
Mhm.
started to explain to me kind of just how sick I really was, because I didn't understand that I didn't have the power to do things different at some points during that time, but, I'll go to you, Robert, for this. It says, "How did you transition into sobriety?"
Oh, I that's such an interesting question because I I stopped drinking because I thought I was going to die. And I went into treatment that day when I looked in the mirror and I thought, you're going to die. You're 32 years old and there's nothing you can do about it. You're dead. I was just still breathing. But when I came back from my relapse after 71 days, I went back out for 5 days, tried to recapture that feeling of being an almost. When I entered sobriety was when my sponsor at the time, Max Brooks, I said, what do I do next? And he said, everything I tell you to do. When I agreed to that, I entered into sobriety. I entered into that forward progress that would take a very sick person and give them the help that he or she needs and move them into sobriety, which leads to recovery, which leads to being well. And so I got sober on February 9th of 1986, the first time but I entered sobriety on April 25th, 1986, when I realized the only way for me to accomplish what I needed to accomplish was to do exactly what you told me to do.
Yeah, and it's like it's at that point where you're ready. You're ready to take the suggestions, and it's one of those things where it just that's one of the frustrating things that we just can't give to people is just that last kind of push, it's like we could show you how, but you just have to be somewhat willing.
Yeah.
Somewhat willing. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. I've seen people in the rehabs I was in. You don't always know who's going to get sober. I've seen people that came in the first few weeks, they were miserable. They could care less about what was going on. They weren't filling out any of the packets. They weren't sharing nothing, right? And of course, there's me like in the front trying to answer every question and stuff. And I last 15 minutes outside of rehab, and I have a drink in hand. And this guy who didn't seem willing the entire time he was there, didn't seem ready, was barely even participating. It goes on to get years of sobriety because I guess it's like he did the action, like Robert had mentioned in the beginning of this. Is he may have not been super willing in the beginning, but he took the action, and that was the difference. I didn't. I want to kind of go over. We're almost getting towards the end here. I'll go to you, Whitney, for this. Just kind of a comment on this. It says, this was from one of our earlier episodes that we all did. It says, I wish there was someone like you guys when I got sober. I am 12 years sober now. It wasn't easy. And to be honest, I still have days where the want to drink is almost too much. But I look at my kids and know that I'm going to be okay. Do you have any comments on that, Whitney?
Well, first of all, that's quite a compliment to you guys and us, right? I love that he sees that here with us. 12 years sober and still having those like kind of gut-wrenching cravings. I'm so much less sober, and I feel like I am pretty free from those kind of thoughts and cravings, and it's I completely due to this program and staying very active in this program and waking up in recovery every day. I don't necessarily have to hit a meeting every day, but I for sure when I wake up, first thing I do is get on my knees, I read my little books, that there's just a process I go through in the morning, and without that I'm already off to a rough start. So I make sure I do that every morning, but um yeah, I don't know. It was more of a statement, but maybe I just recommend getting more involved in a program and making that more of a part of your life, if you're still having those kind of feelings and thoughts. Because I mean, kids and your wife and certain things can only keep you sober for so long, right? But that to me is kind of white knuckling it, and that's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to, you know, wake up and have to deal with that every day. So yeah, I don't know. That wasn't really a question, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Yeah, do you have anything to add, Robert? Someone who's at 12 years, which is a huge accomplishment, but it seems like they're kind of having a hard time of really getting close to thinking about drinking it. It sounds like, at least from this comment. Do you have anything you'd say to
You
them?
know, I would just replay Whitney's answer.
Right? I know, so
I would
good.
just whatever Whitney said, I would do because I think her answer was perfect.
Yeah, we'll put I'll comment back and say refer to Whitney's part in the podcast here. All right, guys, we're getting towards the end. Let me hear. Let's see. I got another comment. It says overcoming your worst enemy every day for the rest of your life. The beautiful journey. And then I had one more over here. It said, and this is something I can relate to. It said, I recently had a drug and alcohol counseling session. I had smoked a little bit half hour before the session. 45 minutes in, the counselor wasn't sure and didn't know I was under the influence, right? So that was all it said. And my first initial thoughts were, okay, so you're somewhat functional, right? But then I started to look into it a little bit more, and I'm thinking, so you've gone through the effort to schedule and pay for a session with a drug and alcohol counselor, right? But then, which is probably what, like an hour out of the week, but we still have to get high before that session, you know? So first of all, I've done this. I'll
Yes.
just say that right now.
Yeah.
I've done it. I'm not judging at all. I've done this before. But it kind of speaks, I think, to that kind of internal struggle that a lot of us have where we're like, we kind of, I mean, maybe someone's making them go to this session and they're just complying and they smoked a little bit before. But then I'm starting to wonder, like, are you signing up for yourself because you kind of want it, but then at the same time, you're not able to stop? Kind of this thing had me thinking all week, this comment. So I just want to say thank you for that comment. What do you think, Robert? What do you think's going on?
I think we need to transform. The three of us got, we started out because we were afraid of what was going to happen if we didn't stop drinking or using. We transformed into a person who, as we previously stated, are are sober and clean because of what is happening, not because of what will happen if we use again. And so, whatever, apparently, this counselor, this therapist is going into areas that this person is too uncomfortable talking about. So they need to relieve their anxiety so they can go and be a part of the counseling session. Until we can be honest with ourselves, we can't be honest with others. That's why in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says we have to fully concede to our innermost self that we were alcoholic, that we were drug addict. This is the first step in recovery. So this person may not have been honest with their therapist, but they know the truth about themselves. And they know they'll never get well if they're a liar, because liars don't get well.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of throw in at the end of that too. I've done this and I didn't get well. I didn't. It wasn't like I could maybe trick a drug and alcohol counselor here and there. I could maybe bullshit a doctor here and there, but I couldn't bullshit myself at the end of the day, though. And that's really what it came down to. I'll ask real quick in closing. Whitney? What's going on with you for the next couple months? What's a goal of yours? In sobriety, in work, in your personal life? What are you trying to work on over the next month?
Well, like we've talked about that, close to burnout, maybe burnout that I've had this summer, right? I feel like I have missed a lot of the AA program that I haven't been getting. I get a couple meetings a week, but I really just miss going to meetings on a whim and having time to do that and taking meetings into places and doing that. I'm still doing, I'm sponsoring women and that's great. So my goal is to just wrap up the season with my work and just recommit to the program. Not that I'm not committed, but I just kind of miss it being more of like a involved daily kind of thing. Other than that, I'm just working on some health problems, but that's okay. And yeah, looking forward to this fall. I love fall. It's my favorite time of the year. So looking forward to seeing you too, Robert, when you come into town.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? He'll be there soon. What about you, Robert? What are you excited about? I think I know a couple things you're excited about, but why don't
Well,
you
I'm
tell us?
excited that I don't have to shovel snow in October, November, December, January. I'm glad I don't have a snowblower anymore living in Florida. I get the opportunity to travel and speak September, October, November. I'm going to take December off and then I'll travel again, probably to California, where I'll get to see you, Drew. Um, but you know what? I've been sober so many decades. What I'm really excited about is the legacy that I've been called to create, because there'll come a time when I'm not here, and I'm not looking forward to that time. But reality says I'm closer to the end of my life at 71 than I am the beginning of my life. So at some point, you and Whitney will have to carry the message. And so I'm excited that I get to invest in other people who will be here when I'm gone, whether I know it or not. I'll probably, if I'm lucky, I won't be gone, but it won't matter, right? I'll be senile. And I just want to create a legacy of sobriety, of what can really happen if we give ourselves over to God and to others, and what can happen in us. So I'm really excited about the legacy that I'm creating, because at some time it's going to be up to you and Whitney to carry the message forward, just like it was for me when my sponsor passed away.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to say thank you guys again for taking the time to come on. I love getting into all these questions that you guys come up with, and throwing all the different comments at you guys. So I appreciate you taking the time to spread the hope, share the experience. You guys have become good friends of mine. And I just want to say to anyone out there who has written the comments, or if there's someone that has a question about something, or something, some topic that you want us to get into, or something you want us to comment on, go ahead and throw it out there, and we'll be happy to talk about it. It's always cool getting to get into different topics about sobriety, and it's just cool hearing everyone's different experiences. So I just want to say thank you guys. Thanks for taking the time again, Robert and Whitney.
Thank you so much, Drew. Have a great
Thank
day.
you,
Thank you
Drew.
for thank you